Hi, everybody. Thank you all for sharing all your stories with us. I have a 3-year-old, so I am one of those people who had a child in their mid-30s. So until that point, I was an AWOC, and I was never sure if I wanted to have a baby. So she's been a lovely surprise, but I was always on the not sure side. Becky and I are local area coordinators. So we are employed by the City of York Council to walk alongside people in the community to help them achieve their vision of a good life. So that's the big remit of a local area coordinator. So local area coordination has been in the UK since 2010.
2010, yeah.
But it is a model that came from Western Australia. And it's a model that was, I guess, set up by 2 people who are still very much involved in local area coordination. And it started because families in Western Australia who had a family member within their community who had a disability and who would historically have been taken from their family and moved to one of the bigger cities in order to be able to get the care that they needed. And Eddie Bartnik and Ralph Broad realised that this wasn't the best place for people. The best place for all of us is in our community with the people who care about us. And they can be family members, they can be friends, they can be neighbours, they can be groups that we are connected to, but that we all have our own autonomy to be able to make decisions that are best for us and best for those people that we care about. It came to the UK in 2010 with the remit of working with anybody. So there wasn't a specific group of people that local area coordinators would work with. The only criteria, it didn't move when, there we are. The only criteria that we have as local area coordinators is that the people that we walk alongside are living within the patch in which we work. So as you can see, most of the city centre of York is covered. We are hopefully trying for total domination. So at some point in the future, there will be a local area coordinator for every part of the city. But it has been a programme which the City of York Council have invested in for, well, nearly 8 years now.
Yeah.
And we've gone from 3 local area coordinators who were based in Huntington and New Earswick, in Westfield down at the bottom here, and in Tang Hall, to there being 13 of us across the city. And we work in the community. We're based within, we're based within community spaces. So we don't sit in West offices in the council building. We don't hide in housing offices. We are out in the community, meeting residents in the places where they are. Yeah. So as local area coordinators, we have what we call drop-ins. So we have spaces that anybody can come and see us at. So they, as it's shown on here, those are in different places. So there are LACs who have drop-ins in community cafes. There are LACs who have drop-ins at food banks. There are LACs that have drop-ins in sports centres. I'm trying to think, in a park. Yeah. at the folk hall, that we have drop-ins in a whole bunch of places across the city. And so even if somebody even if they weren't living in one of those patches, if they could come and see us and they needed to have a chat, we wouldn't turn anybody away from those drop-ins. But in terms of the kind of more intensive work that we might do with somebody, it predominantly means that they live in those patches, but they could also be working in those patches. You mentioned about the university, that's covered my area, as you can see on the map. So I will, meet with people who are working in the area, who live in the area, who kind of have an involvement. So the food banks, for example, they are open to anybody across the city, so they wouldn't necessarily just be people who lived next door to it. So we can be accessed in any way. We will often joke about the fact that local area coordinators are probably some of the most accessible people within the council. Our faces are on posters in community centres. People can have our telephone numbers, they can have our email addresses. We will message people, we will WhatsApp them, we will video call them, and we can meet them in the community. And like Becky said, we aim to kind of pick up what we would call introductions. So rather than referrals, we are introduced to somebody by a whole range of different people, but usually their neighbours, their friends, their family, somebody who is known to them in the community. So I think one of the questions was about what does the work that we do, what's it involve? So I mentioned about walking alongside people. It's a bit more sort of metaphorical, I guess, than physical. Although we do meet people and go for a walk if that's where they feel most comfortable. But what walking alongside means is that we're with them. So we're not doing for them, we're not fixing things for them. We are supporting them to build upon their natural authority and the skills that they have already acquired through their lives, to be able to achieve that good life. And when we meet somebody, we will have what we call the good life conversation. So as well as getting to know them and them getting to know us as people, we will ask them, what does a good life look like for you? And that opens all manner of questions, as you can imagine, all manner of conversations. We've ranging from somebody saying to us they want to get fit and healthy, through to somebody saying they wanted to sort out their finances, through to being more connected to groups in the communities, and then also working alongside more established groups. Those good life conversations might be, how do we build up the membership of that group? How do we help to secure some funding for them? And so that walking alongside can look very different depending on who the person is and what their good life conversation has gone like. We can walk alongside somebody for as long as they need. So that might be a one-off conversation with a few signposting directions to particular activities, through to we have people on our caseloads that we've been walking alongside for years. We also say that there's no wrong door into local area coordination. So if somebody had used some support from their local area coordinator for, I don't know, for example, identifying some care and support in the community, and then that had worked and everything was okay, we didn't hear from them again for a while, and then something else happens, or there is another issue, and they come back to us. So it's never closed completely. And as long as we're in post, we will work with anybody. So I said about the fact that local area coordination is a model that was developed And part of that development of the model was to establish a set of principles by which every local area coordinator, so the 13 of us in York, and then at the moment, 16 local area coordination projects in the UK, and then going wider into places like Nova Scotia, across into Singapore. They are looking at re-establishing one in Scotland. There are various places around the world, still in Western Australia. All local area coordinators work to this set of principles, and they have been established in partnership with the people that we walk alongside and each of us as local area coordinators, because these are how most people would choose to live their life. We should all be entitled to natural authority, our ability to make decisions for ourselves that meet our own needs. We, as local area coordinators, battle to get services to work together. So that complementary nature of services, and rather than somebody being dealt with in isolated parts, in those kind of silos, we want to bring all of those services together so that the person becomes a whole person, and that support that they receive is about them rather than about what a service has. We're all entitled to lifelong learning. As we said, we're based in those communities. We become part of those communities. And I've been a local area coordinator in York and also in one of the London boroughs. And one of the things that my previous manager said to me is that local area coordination is a slow burn. We don't make these connections. We don't become part of those communities overnight. We build up those relationships, and we don't force ourselves onto the communities in which we're walking alongside. We are encouraging people to continue to make their contribution, whatever that looks like, to their community. That people continue to have choice and control over their life and their situations. That the information that we all get is accurate and is timely. It's delivered by the right person. That we build up relationships. So the whole point of local area coordination is about how we build up relationships with people and how they build up relationships with each other. And we have been known as local area coordinators to be a bit of a dating service where we've had several people in the community who've wanted to do set up a group or start a project, or even just, I don't know, go to a football match together and they didn't have anybody to go with. And we can often link people up because we get to know the community on that kind of level. Yeah, and then I think working together speaks for itself. But the citizenship side of things is around the fact that, so some of the words that I've used today, introductions rather than referrals, walking alongside rather than doing for, we refer to the people that we work with as residents, citizens, human beings, rather than clients or service users. We have part of how we deliver the data and the information about the work that we do is through storytelling. So rather than it just being a bunch of numbers that goes to the people that fund our service, we tell the stories of the people that we have walked alongside, and they get a chance to share their good life and where they have got to. And we get a chance to show the actual real world work that we do rather than a few stats and statistics. So do you want to go with yours first?
Yeah. So we tried to think of examples that might be, sorry, I'm a quiet speaker. It's a good job you did more of the talk. Yes, we tried to think of some examples that were maybe more relevant to the AWOC community. So my example is a couple who are aging without children, and they relocated to York from Leeds, following a very traumatic incident in Leeds, for a better life, for a good life. But they came here and they didn't know anything within the city other than that they liked the city. So it was all about connecting them to different aspects of the community that they wanted to be connected to. So the first one was majorly important for the gentleman, was finding a doctor who he could trust and that was reliable. He had signed up to one, but he hadn't had a good experience. So it was just kind of getting information around what would be the best doctors for him, connecting him to one that he felt he could trust. And that's something that, you know, we have such knowledge and of experience of the different GPs in York that we are able to kind of help signpost in that way. The other aspects was just helping them build a community locally for them. Their family were all further afield, and they didn't know anyone, but also because of the traumatic incident in Leeds, he still needed a lot of support around his mental health. So it was both helping them find community activities that were fun and pleasurable, but also some that would help him with his mental health. So one of them was the Well at the Citadel Church. Don't know if anyone heard of them, but they offer mental health support and do offer some free counselling sessions. So that kind of ticked that box. And then it was helping to connect them to the community centres near where they lived, where there'd be different groups on and things like that. So it was just helping embed them into their community a bit more. I recently bumped into them, so I probably was involved with them for about 4 months. Hadn't seen them for a long time. Like Alice said, when things come to an end, it's natural and that's fine. But I bumped into them in the street, and they spoke about how settled and happy they were in York, how much safer they felt, how they've continued to build up more connections, not just the ones I'd connected them to, but much more. And just even, you know, we're able now to, from the community group that they've gone to, they actually realised a lot of people lived on their street. And so they've got much more of a community focus in their actual locality as well as just within the city. So that's just one of the ways we work. Yeah.
Have we still got time? Because I can share mine as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
carry on,
Okay.
carry on.
So my gentleman that I walked alongside, this was an introduction from adult social care, specific mental health social workers within that team. And there'd been a safeguarding submitted for this gentleman because he was living with his mum who passed away really suddenly, and he was left with no support, no children, in his late 50s, living in the house that he'd lived in for his entire life with his parents. And he had even though he'd lived in that area for his whole life, he talked to the neighbours, but other than that, there was nobody else involved in. He didn't have any kind of friends that he would call upon to kind of share the experience, or, you know, sort of have those social activities with. And when I met him, as you can imagine, his mental health was rock bottom. He was grieving, and I built up that relationship with him because he needed more time to trust somebody. I was a completely new person barging into his life, visiting him at home, and he needed that time to build up the relationship. It took, I think, about 5 months of me going to visit him before he said he'd like to start participating in some social activities. And one of the places that I deliver one of my drop-ins is St Oswald's Church Community Cafe in Fulford. on a Wednesday morning. And I went to meet him 9:30. We walked round to the church together, and he was completely nervous. He was, it was all going to go wrong, and everything was going to be a disaster. And we walked in, and I'd already let the volunteers know that I was potentially going to be bringing him, and he was going to be very anxious. So they welcomed him in, they sat down with a cup of tea, and I stayed with him for that whole session. And the next week, he said to me, I'd like to come back again. And I asked him, would you like me to walk with you again? He was like, no, I'm going to do it on my own. And he was like, but will you be there just so that in case? And it has been 18 months now since he started that. And every single week he turns up, and he's now become a volunteer as part of they call it the Wednesday Friends group. And he's completely transformed various aspects of his life. And now most times he doesn't even talk to me anymore. He's like, you're always too busy to see me. But there has been this complete transformation in how he feels about himself, in the fact that he feels like he has a set of friends that he can call upon who live nearby to him. They invited him for Christmas lunch last year. And it's the fact that, like with Becky's couple and my gentleman and many of the other people that we walk alongside, we are victims of our own success, because if we have supported them to achieve their vision of a good life, they no longer need us anymore. And those residents that we have walked alongside have built up those connections and those networks to be able to do many of these things that are part of our principles.
Yes.
Yes.
Lovely to hear the stories.
Yeah. So all of the stories that, because the whole team of us will write a story for every quarterly report that we submit. You asked Sue if we knew about AWOCs in our area. Yes and no, because obviously we only know about the people who we get introduced to. But because we are introduced to people from such a broad spectrum of situations, from neighbours and friends and family through to adult social care, mental health services, GPs, I'm trying to think who else is there. I've had introductions from our council tax team in the council, benefits team, the job centre. There's, it's kind of as broad as if there is a service or a person and somebody knows about us, then we will be connected to them. So yes, the stories we brought are obviously success stories that we've had with people who are AWOCs, but we would always meet anybody who was introduced to us and identify with them their vision for a good life. Yeah.
I'm trying to count the AWOCs. So if I put the word out to all local area coordinators, can you give me some idea of?
If they have shared that data with us, yes. It wouldn't necessarily be. So one thing I didn't say is that the actual amount of data that we collect because of the sharing stories is very, very minimal. So if somebody has told us, obviously we would normally be asking them questions about what networks they already have. But as you've shared with me today, there are some people in the room who would count themselves as AWOCs because their children are absent from their lives, even though they have them. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are that they have a relationship with them. And I can definitely count a few people that I have on my caseload, and that's just me as one local area coordinator. So it just depends what people share with us. The information on local area coordination, anybody who has access to this internet can go on to the City of York Council's website, and there are details on how to contact all local area coordinators across the City of York. And there is information about other support that might be more useful to people across the city. But we can also leave some information about us at the end as well, so that if anybody wants to contact us directly, they can do that. But that's it. That's all from us today. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much indeed.